the video quality is slightly better this time. I finally figured out a way to get my DSLR set up to my computer. So, we're going to try to make this work, and hopefully everything is better than my last video. I'm coming to you guys with the second most requested topic that you guys have asked me to cover, and that is, should you go to art school? As many of you know, I went to art school. I am Trish. I own a small business, and I am a full-time artist living and working with my craft. But do you need to go to art school in order to be a full-time artist? That's a tricky question, and we're going to try to cover that today. So I'm going to be looking down at my phone because I made some notes, and I want to make sure I get everything covered. And the first thing I want to talk about is art school versus college. So it's a big difference to me whether you go to college versus whether you go to art school. I think if you can afford to go to college, absolutely you should go to college. College is a experience that allows you to expand your knowledge from your base level, and I think it's really important that everyone can go to college, again, if you are financially able to do so, because you will learn so much and it will fundamentally change who you are as a person, because with knowledge, you expand your entire being. You get to learn about other cultures, you get to learn about other people, you get to learn about things outside of your own scope, and that is, again, fundamental, I think, to anyone's development, so you should absolutely go to college. Now, should you go to college in your hometown? I'm a little bit picky here, and again, this is me being hypocritical because I went to school in my hometown where I grew up, which was Baltimore, and while it is a larger city, I wish I could have experienced another culture and gone to a different, probably equally as large or larger city to go to school. However, I was not financially able to do so. But I feel like if you are living in a smaller town or in a kind of close-knit community, I think it's important to get outside of your community and go to somewhere that makes you a little bit uncomfortable. Because when you are uncomfortable, you tend to adapt and you tend to learn. And that's where I think the college experience is really important. Because again, you are being exposed to new cultures, new people, things outside of your comfort zone. And I think that's why college is important, because you're learning to grow and adapt, which is going to help you in your future life and your future career. So college, absolutely, 100% in my book. If you can afford to go to college. Now, should you go to an art school? So there's two types of school I'm going to talk about. And I went to both types. One is a liberal arts college, so that is like your standard 4-year or 2-year university. We'll talk about both community college, and we'll talk about 4-year universities and the difference between those. But the other option is an art school or school of arts. That is a college or university that is strictly focused on art education. I started my art education career in 9th grade. I went to a school of the arts. It was not a private school, it was something called a magnet school. In Baltimore, the way this magnet school worked is it's an application process. It was not necessarily open to the public because public school students did go there, and that's how you applied to go there. There was no payment, so it was not a private school. However, when I went there, this is no longer the case, but every single student in the school was an art education student, or part of what we called primes. Now, me saying that, some of you will be able to know what school I went to, and it's not a secret what school I went to. It's an internationally recognized school of the arts from 9th to 12th grade, and my prime was visual arts. So I went from there from 9th to 12th grade, and this was an art school. So my education was primarily focused on art education, with again, standard high school education attached to that. So we would have 90-minute prime classes once or twice a day, where we would focus strictly on art, and then we would have 90-minute education classes, usually about 2 to 3 times a day. We had 4 classes total each day, usually. So while I had the standard high school education, I also had the art school education put on top of that, with a focus on your art education being your primary focus, and your high school education, your math, your sciences being more of a secondary focus. This was a good fundamental program, and I did really enjoy this. However, there's a culture that develops inside of art school that can limit your ability to kind of move forward, especially when you go outside of that art school community into the quote-unquote real world, where that art school community, that art school competition doesn't help you. So that's where I start to stray away from saying you should go to a capital A art school. First thing that you want to focus on when you're thinking about going to an art school or a school of the arts is, can you learn this on your own? Can you teach yourself this craft without going to a school of the arts? For example, let's say you want to learn sculpture, 3D modeling, drawing. Is there something that you can teach yourself by taking either classes at a community college or learning online? Is this something that you need to go to school to learn? If the answer is no, then maybe you should be looking more into a liberal arts college instead of a capital A art school. When you go into a capital A art school, the classes tend to be more expensive, and you may not necessarily get a higher quality of education than what you could teach yourself. For example, right now, I went to a capital A art school, I went to a liberal arts college, but 90% of the things that I'm using in my daily life as a full-time artist are self-taught. For example, I taught myself how to sew. I taught myself costume making. I taught myself cosplaying, which is not really necessarily one of those skills that you would learn in a school. However, I taught myself all of those things, and I would say a third or up to half of my business is all self-taught skills. Now, my 3D modeling and my crafting education, like my sculpture education, that does come into play, and that I did learn in college. However, there's other skills like business and marketing that I did not learn in college that I feel like I taught myself more than anything else, that I could have been just as successful whether I went to a school of the arts or whether I studied in a different program. And when you are looking at an art school program, I think that there's two things that are really important that you need to make sure that your art school program has. And if it doesn't have, you need to supplement that education yourself. And that is an education in business and an education in marketing. You will need those two things more than you will need a lot of the other stuff that you're going to learn in schools of the arts. Like, for example, my knowledge of art history, while it is important to know art history, I can tell you, I can probably count on my hands how many times that knowledge of art history has actually helped me in my business. I mean, I guess you can count it helps me in Animal Crossing to figure out which paintings are fake. But beyond that, it just builds a visual reference where you could build that visual reference on your own. I'm not saying anything against art historians, nothing against art history. It's just one of those things where my time and money would have been better spent if I had taken more classes in business and more classes in marketing. And as an artist, you might find yourself that it would be better for you to take a major in marketing or business and then take your minor in art, where you can still get those fundamentals of art education and you're able to pursue your craft. However, you've learned the business skills that you need to actually run your business. And a well-developed art program is going to offer you classes in both graphic design, marketing, and business, where I will say a lot of my art education did not focus on business whatsoever or marketing, and a lot of it is left up to me. I think I had 2 classes total that taught me anything about business, and I don't think I really had any classes about marketing. And those 2 things are like over half of a small business owner's job is dealing with customers, like dealing with orders, dealing with business, taxes, that kind of thing, where none of that usually gets covered by art school. And that's where you need to get your more liberal education in order to be successful as a full-time artist. The other things that I want to go into then is just what are the alternatives. As I said, the alternative would be to go to a school that focuses more on business, marketing, or communications, and then getting that minor in art, which I feel would be more useful to your further career as a full-time artist. Because what happens in art school, I like to call this the art school trap. And basically, you get into this art, capital A, I'm an artist, and I keep saying capital A artist, but I mean like art as on a pedestal artist. And you get this idea that you're going to be this working studio artist, and you're going to make art all day long. And that's all you're going to do. You're going to make art, you're going to have gallery shows, you're going to sell your paintings in a gallery. That's not going to happen. And there's so few people that are going to make it as just a full-time studio working artist that it's not realistic. So the art school trap is that they tell you that you're going to be able to, for example, make elaborate textile quilts, and you're going to sell these quilts that take you months and months to make, and that's how you're going to make your living. No, realistically it's not. And there's nothing against making quilts, there's nothing against making these beautiful textile arts. However, is the market there? Is there anything there that is going to keep sustaining you on a level that you can live on? And that's where you need to think about product development and selling your work. What is your product at the end of the day? Because a lot of times art schools are going to push you into a fundamental studio art. For example, I learned a lot of sculpture. There's not a huge call for figurative sculpture out here in the world. There is a lot of call for 3D modeling. However, the 3D modeling I was doing is not necessarily the 3D modeling that the world is calling for. They're looking for industrial designers. They're looking for technical writers. They're looking for people with engineering skills. So while I have a background in 3D modeling and 3D scanning and 3D design, I don't have a background in engineering. So half of the jobs that I would have been eligible for, I'm no longer eligible for because I don't have that other fundamental knowledge that I would have gotten with a more science-based degree. So the art school trap is that they just funnel you into being a studio artist or working artist, and they don't give you the pieces or the keys that you need to connect A to B. How do I go from working in a studio setting to being a productive artist that I can sell my work? And that's where you need to start filling in the gaps in knowledge, which comes with the business, the marketing, the communication skills, the taxes, that kind of stuff. And that's where you want to try to fill that gap while you're in college so you can learn that skill and learn the skills you need to go forward in your studio practice once you leave art school. So it's one of those you need to watch that you don't get into the art school mentality, and when you're choosing your program, that your program is well-rounded. Again, as I said, I went to a school of the arts from 9th to 12th grade. It was all fundamentals about art. And that's when I personally decided that I was going to take some time and think about my career and where I wanted to go as an artist. So the first thing that I did is I went to community college, and I absolutely recommend, if you are unsure of what you want to go into, or you don't have a full scholarship or anything like that you're going to be risking by going to community college, go to community college first. The reason you should go to community college is it gives you 2 years to think about what you want to do. It lets you get your fundamental classes out of the way, like your English 101, your basic math, or whatever you're in. You get those general education credits out of the way so that when you go to your 4-year university program, be it an art school or be it a liberal arts college, then you are able to go directly into your major, and you're spending those more expensive funds, because again, the classes tend to be double or triple the amount of cost that they would be at a community college. Then you're funneling that money directly into your major, and you're going to end up saving a lot in the long run because you finish those general education credits and you can focus more on your elected major. So that's my first tip, is I went to community college, got my general education credits out of the way, and then I went into a 4-year university. I decided to go into a liberal arts college because I had found, kind of watching a lot of my friends who went to an art school out of the 4-year art program that I went to, or the 4-year art school that I went to, they went to a 4-year university of the arts. And a lot of them were stuck in that same art school mentality that we had developed while we were in that school of the arts back in high school. And there was a lot of this clickiness that was developing because, again, they were in that art school fundamentals kind of mindset. And they weren't expanding upon what they were doing. And here's the thing that I see a lot of times too. A lot of my fellow classmates, be it from high school or be it from college, are not working artists because, again, they didn't fill those gaps in education. And I personally didn't fill those gaps in education until way after I graduated, and then I had to go learn those on my own. So that's what I was kind of seeing, is that they were getting kind of stuck into this art school trap that by going to community college I kind of saw that had started to develop, where if I would have gone straight into that art school, I probably wouldn't have seen the development of that, but I also wouldn't have changed my major. So originally I was going to be an illustrator or a painter, and here's the problem with that. There are so few jobs for illustrators and painters that you have to be really, really good. And I was just okay. I wasn't bad by any means. I mean, I can draw and I can paint, but I wasn't amazing. And with how much competition there is out there in the job market, if you're not amazing, it's really hard to break into that world. So I reeled myself back and then started to think about what can I do in a more practical sense. And that's when I started to go into 3D modeling, object design, and originally I had gone into art education. But then after my first year, I decided that I didn't want to be an art educator. I wanted to be a full-time artist. And that art education really wasn't for me. So I pulled back from that and I went more into a more 3D modeling focus, object design kind of course with a little bit more sculptural basis. Because again, knowing myself more from going to community college, I realized that I was more of a 3D artist than a 2D artist, and that's important to know. Kind of knowing yourself, not wasting time trying to develop skills that just really aren't your skill set. Even though I would love it to be my skill set, it's not my skill set. So that's one of the things that I learned going to community college first. And again, going to the liberal arts college, I was allowed to take classes that were more business focused, and I wish I'd taken more of them. I wish I'd taken more of the graphic design, more of the business, more of a little bit more engineering and physics-based classes than I already did. But going to the liberal arts college did give me a little bit more of a fundamental basis than what I'd already had. So those are my thoughts on art school. I hope that some of this information helps to form some of your opinion on art school or what you should do in the future. But you can always ask me questions. Just leave a question in the comment below and I'll try to answer to the best of my knowledge. I'm not an academic advisor. I'm just somebody who went to college, who went to art school, who's been there before, who has the years of experience as a full-time artist. So hopefully I can help you if you have some questions or you just want to get a little bit more understanding before you go and spend that money and go forward with your college education. So hopefully I can help fill in some of those gaps that you may not be able to get from someone who is trying to push you more into a studio-based 4-year art school kind of education. If this comment, or if this was helpful in any way, sorry, I'm like stumbling today. If this was helpful to you guys, please like and subscribe. I'm going to try to do more content just like this, a little bit more off-the-cuff videos, and hopefully this will allow me to spread some of the knowledge that I have working as a full-time artist. Have a great day, guys. Bye.